In the permaculture realm is something that I've taken as my niche. Studied lots about it. I grow mushrooms at home and I sell mushroom patches to my clients on the island. Today I'm just going to show you a quick and easy way to get mushrooms in your landscape. And there's so many benefits to it.
That's exciting.
Cheers. Yeah, how many people have experience with mushrooms in their landscape, growing mushrooms, harvesting or searching for mushrooms in the forest? Awesome. Yeah, so this mushroom species that we're going to use today is the King Stropharia, which also known as the garden giant. So as you can tell by the name, it loves your garden. And so today we're going to inoculate it this tree here with the King Stropharia using unpasteurized mulch, which is alright. Pasteurized mulch is a lot more successful, but because this is so fresh, it's gonna grow easily, the spawn.
What's pasteurized, Mark?
Yeah, how do you...
Nice.
Heated
Pasteurization is the sterilization technique to ensure that let's say we wanted to make these bags. In order to have a successful growing medium for the spawn, King Stropharia mushroom spawn, the mycelium, which you can see all of this white matter, mycelium, which is actually the body of the organism, and the mushroom itself is actually the sexual organ. When it feels right, it pops up.
Is it like the fruit? And the...
Sounds pretty normal.
Yeah, the fruiting body, right? Patterns. So, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna lay out this method of bringing mushrooms in the landscape. Once you do this once, if fed well and taken care of, this mushroom will spread all over your garden. It'll spread into your soil. It grows in soil and it also grows in a mulch medium. Alright, back to pasteurization, just to clarify that. Pasteurization is a sterilization technique. There's many ways. You can heat pasteurize, you can cold pasteurize. What I do is cold pasteurization, and I use barrels such as in the truck there. And what I'll do is I'll fill, so the cold pasteurization is a Japanese fermentation technique of fermenting your chips to make sure that they're clear of any other fungal spores. Now it's guaranteed that every tree that you're planting or any mulch that you have is already inoculated with some form of fungus. There's this, like, they're always together, it's floating in the air. So if you were to make or want to create bags like this for sale, you want to ensure that what you're giving to people is actually what you're wanting. So if you were to take this mulch here, pack it in a bag, and throw some of this in here, it's not a guarantee that that's actually going to be what you get in a mushroom. There might be something in here that's much stronger or more present, and it will just eat your other spawn. So they will compete for a place to live. And so what I do is I fill my bucket full of mulch, that big barrel. There's a blue barrel in my truck. I fill that big barrel with my mulch and I fill it with water. I let it sit for 2 weeks. Alright, and so after 2 weeks, when you take it from your anaerobic place, no air, and add air, all of the anaerobic bacteria and everything dies. Everything that was on this has already died because it was starved of oxygen, and it oxidizes the chips, and the chips are clean. And so if you were to take those clean chips, take a handful of this, stick it in a bag, let it sit in the right temperature placement, you could start having a beautiful business, right? What I do is I take my tub, I dump it out on a tarp, the oxygen cleans it all immediately. It's like as soon as it touches air, it's cleared, and then I stick it in bathtubs, and I grow in bathtubs.
Inside?
Outside. I make little lids with handles, I paint them. So that's how I grow the King Stropharia mushroom, and I spread them out in my garden, you know, because what's the benefit of this? The stacking functions idea is like, ooh, yeah, edible mushrooms, we get edible mushrooms. But also, the idea with mulching is that it helps save water, and if you have a good mushroom species around there, then you even get a deeper ability to hold moisture in your soil or around your trees, in your mulch.
Yeah. Just ask quickly. So like once you've inoculated it and you have it in the bathtub, I always thought that it had to be like a super sterile environment all the way through, but is that not so?
Right, so with my bathtubs, I sterilize them too with isopropyl alcohol, and my chips are sterilized, and these are ready to go as the medium that I want. And so I'm adding the mushroom species. And so there's this wicked book called Mycelium Running.
Yep.
Mycelium Running, that's what happens. With its best and most desired spot, it grows really fast and eats and takes it over.
There's no
so you'll
competitors.
find that if you have done the proper methods of sterilization, you'll have great success. Now, with this chip and this spawn, and sometimes, most of the time, if I'm doing a patch, I will not pasteurize my chips and I just apply them to the landscape and have had an amazing success. Patches that yield hundreds and hundreds of mushrooms a year. Very beneficial to the food forest. The pattern that we're looking for in a food forest is the pattern of a forest, and the forest is totally connected by a mycelial network underground. So you get all the benefits that has, which is chemical communication. Communication through if there's an attack happening in one part of the forest or in a section of a forest or a section of a grove, the mycelial network can send messages and send medicine. They also send water, can transfer moisture throughout the system to balance it out.
Is there any particular species of Euphorbia that you're using for fruit trees specifically, or any?
No, for me, I've just stuck with this ground garden giant. It's the most successful, and so this mushroom. Oh shoot! Can I ask someone just to, Rabbit? Could you run to the truck and grab the mushroom book? So I'm gonna hand this little handful around. So this is our precious beast. So you wanna hold it? Just pass it around. So what you're looking at here is the King Safaria mycelium. That's its body. You know, that's itself. What happens is when it feels really good in the right time of year, it'll shoot up its mushrooms, which are the fruiting body, which are its method of spreading itself. Yeah.
What's the difference between the two words mycorrhizal and mycelium?
Mycelium and mycorrhizal.
Mycorrhizal.
Good question again. So mycorrhizal, because Christine was probably talking about mycorrhizal inoculation. So I would defer to Christine on that. Mycelium is the actual. Please do, please, yeah.
Go ahead with mycelium.
Yeah, mycelium is the body of and the network of a mushroom species. So it is the white network that you see in this being passed around. That is the species of itself.
And that's the
Mycelium. Yeah, mycelium.
Okay, mycelium.
So yeah, mycelium's that underground web of little thread-like things that make up the body of the mushroom. Mycorrhizal literally comes from myco, which means mushroom, and rhizal, which means root. So they're root mushrooms. They're mushrooms that make an association with the plant roots. And so they're little hyphae, those little threads.
So you never see like the tops of mycorrhizal?
You do.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Because the tops that you see are the fruiting bodies. They're like the apple on the apple tree. So the apple tree is the mycelium, and the mycorrhizal are the particular kinds of mushrooms that live in association with plant roots. So those little hyphae will actually, it's like they shake hands with the little root hairs and fuse and extend the reach of the roots so that the roots can draw in more water and more phosphorus, and they actually link root to root in the forest. So in a living, healthy forest, trees actually feed their young through these networks of mycelium. They'll send nutrients down. Trees growing in the sun will feed trees growing in the shade, even trees of a different species, through these webs. And trees aren't the only ones that make those associations. Other plants do as well. That's why growing your garden giants can help your garden, because they'll make associations with the plant roots.
Yeah, like so with this, there's been experiments done with garden giants, and you can increase a yield by 40% of your brassicas with a garden giant network involved in your system. There's a proven science that
because I don't understand, those are the ones that don't mycorrhiza.
In mycelial running, Paul Stamets explains that they did experiments with Kingstropharia and an increase in brassica production by 40%.
Really?
Yeah. So the garden giant is the species of mushroom that we're looking at today, Kingstropharia.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Oh, Kingstropharia is a type of garden giant.
Kingstropharia is garden giant.
Is it?
Yeah, this is
another name for it.
Kingstropharia. Kingstropharia is a scientific name, and garden giant is a common name, or wine cap, also known as wine cap.
Yeah, because he also sells like another type of mycelium that works really well in plants.